Yeah. So to perform DML operations, so there's a concept called entity object. There's one of the Java BC project component called entity object, which we use for the purpose of performing DML operations. So, in general requirement, whenever you want to do any of the DML operations, we prefer to use a PL/SQL API. But in the OAF framework, if you would like to perform any DML operations on custom tables, it does not need to write any PL/SQL API. There is no PL/SQL API requirement at all. Okay. So what we so like if there is no PL/SQL API, so how can you perform the DML operations? So the DML operations will be performed by the entity object. It's nothing but it's a Java API. I can say Java BC component, which is used for the purpose of performing all the DML operations like insert, update, as well as delete. So like earlier we have been developing a search pages. Now like what is the difference you observe is if you observe the the Vivo we the Vivo which we create now will be based on entity object plus a SQL query. So what exactly entity object means? It's a just Java BC4J object, and it is based on the database object. So what do you mean by database object? So the database object like a table and a simple view as well as material view as well as a synonym. So on these particular four database objects, we can create an entity object. So Java entity object is based on your database object. Okay, it's nothing but your updatable record group. If you, from the form perspective, if you understand, it's nothing but we're just creating a record group, but specially this is an updatable record group. That is the only difference. Okay. So now what we want to do is I just want to consider a custom table. So one more thing we have to remember is whenever we want to create any entity object on a particular database object, the underlying database object should have a primary key and also it should have two columns. Okay. The underlying database object should have a primary key as well as two columns. So even though if you don't mention it will work, but it's a preferable and it's a kind of a good it's a preferable option that you have to mention. So the same if you just consider one of the custom table which I created here, let me show you that. So I just created a custom table called invoice header XX series underscore invoice header, and it is having a primary key called invoice header ID, and it is also having the two columns. Okay. So these are the two columns which I created. So now what I want to do is I just want to design a very simple page, simple OAF page, which will have all the operations like insert, update, as well as delete. So this is what I want to perform. So now if you consider the MVC layer structure, like the model, view, and controller structure, so in the model layer we require AM and we require Vivo as well as Evo also this time. And now other one is invoice header, DML page. This is my page name and invoice header DML sequence. And if you consider the page, what are the components you requirements in the page? The first one will be a page layout region. And what I will do is I want to design a single page. So within a single page, I want to perform all the operations. So what I will do is I just create a table region, and this table region using a table actions. What I will do is I will create three buttons. One is insert, other one is save, and another one is delete. And below this one, I will have all the columns. Below this one, what I will do is I will have all the columns, like column 1, column 1, column 2, column 3, like this. Okay, so on. This is how I want to design. Okay, so now AM is already there, so we'll not repeat AM. So next thing is we have to create entity object. So like whenever you have a requirement to perform DML operation, the first thing should be AM is always first option, and then we have to create entity object, not the Vivo. We have to create entity, then we have to create the Vivo. Okay. And now if you have seen the onion layer architecture, maybe if you remember or not, if you see the onion layer, this is how the layer structure will be. You have a page, a CVO, then AM, right? Then Vivo, then entity, and then database. So the Vivo is based on the Evo. The Vivo is dependent on the Evo. That is what Evo has to be created first. Okay. Now what I will do is I will just create entity object. So then for the entity object, the package structure will be a scheme, like we have been following this one, right? Like XX, what is that? XXCW. So now what I have to follow is XXCW dot Oracle apps fnd.schema.server. So this is a package structure for the entity object. Okay, so let's design the entity object. Now what you do is you can perform right click on the project level or package level, either way it will work. I'll just right click on the project level and click on new area business component and entity object. Click on it. Okay. Now what you do is, so once you click on OK, it has to show the list of schema objects. It will take some time, but it will work. So because it has to load all the database objects, right? Yeah. Now it is showing a list of objects here. You can select or you can type your database objects. If you observe, these are the four database objects on which you can create an entity object. Database schema is apps, and I can create entity object on these one like a table, view, synonym, as well as material view. So you can type it also. You can type your schema object, and when you are searching it, make sure that you search in the uppercase. Okay. Now make sure that you mention the appropriate naming convention here. It will have a suffix evo, and if you have the package structure schema.server. And sorry, just check it properly. It should be xxcw oracle fnt schema.server. Okay, cw oracle fnd dot schema.server. Now click on next. So there is nothing to change. It will automatically identify all the columns and their metadata properties also. Metadata means like the data type, primary key, constraint, everything you find out from the database. Click on next. Okay. Now can you see automatically it identified this invoice header ID as a primary key. I never mentioned anywhere, but it will read the metadata from database and it will automatically set the properties accordingly. Nothing to change. Simply click on next. Nothing to change. Click on next. Now, at the last option, we have to generate the Vivo object also. See, like for the creation of a Vivo, we can explicitly create it, or we can implicitly generate while creating Vivo Evo itself. So it is better to generate the Vivo while the creation of the Evo itself. What I will do is just click on generate default view object here, and just rename it as Evo Vivo, and here also change the package structure appropriately. Okay, XSCW or class FNT server, and finish. Now this particular step will generate one entity object as well as one Vivo object. And now just observe this entity here. This is our entity. Okay. Now assign the Vivo to the AM. So click on the AM, assign the Vivo to the AM, and click on apply. And OK. So the next step is creation of the page. So on the web UI, perform a right click and create a page. OA component and page. Okay. Invoice at the DML page. So now set the new controller. Okay. So now on the page, what we do is just create a table region using a wizard. On the main region, perform a right click, create a region using a wizard. Click on next. Select the Vivo and select the region. Select table here. Click on next, and so I'll select all the columns, but except two columns. Two columns are not required to display, right? Okay. Click on next. Okay. I'll go with the default here. I'll go with the default text input here, and click on next and finish. Now the next thing what we have to do is on this particular table region here, on the table region, perform a right click, click on new, and there's an option called table actions. Click on table actions. Okay. Now it will create a row layout region or flow layout region. On this region 1, perform a right click again and click on new item. Okay. And change this particular item style to submit button and just mention the ID as insert row, insert row. And same we create two more buttons. One is for the save purpose and another is for the deletion purpose. Save and other one is deletion. Okay. So now what we have to do is we have to write the functionality for all these particular buttons. For the insert, save, as well as delete, also delete we have to write it. So before that, just run the page and see how it looks like. Okay. So we have three buttons here: insert, save, as well as delete. And now if you observe it displays a message called no such message. It means that the Vivo is not executed, and whatever the button action you perform, it will not respond. I mean to say, it will not perform any action at all. So now what we have to do is we have to first of all we have to initialize the Vivo, and then we have to write the functionality for each and every button. Okay, so let's do that. The first thing is initialization logic. So go to the aim, and all our business logic has to be written in the aim itself. Okay, so that is the standard we have to follow. So now here what is the first thing is initialization. So click void initialization invoice header user. So this is for the purpose of visualization. And now other one is, let us say, write the logic for the insert invoice header row. So this is for the purpose of inserting a row. Now here what we have to do is we require the row IMPL also. So in a Vivo, what we do is go to the Vivo Vivo. So click on this Vivo, and here we have an option called click on Java, and here click on generate Java file. Click on generate Java file and click on apply and OK. So get the header and get the row. Okay. Now for the header ID purpose, what is the preferable is like let us have a sequence for the header ID purpose. So create a database sequence. What we do is create a database sequence, create sequence XXCS invoice header ID. And one more thing is, like I'm creating all the database objects within app schema. So in your normal client environment, you may create all these particular things. You can create all your database objects in a custom schema and have a synonym in the apps. Have a synonym in the apps. Okay, now this is my sequence name. And first, before that, what we do, let us write the logic for this row insertion. So row is equal to Vivo dot create row and row dot set new row status, row dot status initialized. You have to write all this logic for the purpose of inserting a row. This is manual coding which is required. And finally, Vivo dot insert row and row. So before insertion of the row, what we have to do is we have to get the sequence. Okay. Header ID sequence is equal to get OEDP transaction, get sequence, and mention the sequence name. Your database sequence name in uppercase. So it will automatically write the functionality. Here, if you observe, it is giving an error, right? There. What is the reason is this number is one of the Java API. It is available in two classes. I mean, there's two packages. This member class is available in two packages. We have to explicitly mention what is the package here. So Oracle JVO domain dot member. Okay, this is what you have to mention. And row dot set header ID. So I'm just setting header ID here. Setting the invoice header ID. That's it. Okay. Now this is for the purpose of insertion purpose. And now when a user clicks on a save, we want to save the data, right? So for that one, we just need to write a commit function. Public void save invoice header.
So where did you get this set INV header ID?
Sorry.
Row dot set INV header ID. From where did you get this?
Yeah.
Row dot set INV header ID. Where did you get this?
Yeah, I'll show you. If you observe here, first of all, whenever we design the Vivo, first observe the Vivo. Observe the Vivo, like how many files are there for this Vivo? There are three files.
Yes.
Three files. Okay. Now observe the attributes, nothing but the columns which you mentioned in the SQL query. First of all, did we mention the SQL query for the Vivo? Did we write any query for the Vivo?
No.
No, right? But it will be automatically generated. So when you create, when the Vivo is created based on the entity object, automatically it will create the query for it. You just observe that. Can you see? What is?
Yeah.
So the query is automatically generated based on the entity object what we created. Okay. And now, what is the setter and getter is? If you observe, like now we have all these attributes, right? Attributes is nothing but columns. Attributes is nothing but is all columns here. Can you see? All columns. Okay. Now, so just go to the row IMPL. Go to the row IMPL here. View row IMPL. So in the row IMPL, if you observe, it will show all the list of columns which are there in the Vivo. All the columns. Can you see all the columns here? And for each and every column, you'll have a get as well as you'll have a set. This is automatically generated. This particular file is automatically generated. We does not need to write any coding here. This particular file is automatically generated. But what is the purpose? I'll tell you. Now this particular row MPL file will have a set method as well as get method. Setting is nothing but setting the value. Get means getting the value. But what is the purpose of this one? Is see, it is like when you write a PL SQL, I'll show you. I'll try to tell you in a PL SQL manner. Now, generally observe that. Let us say when you have written any cursor, let us say cursor C underscore replace select star from invoice header. Now, when you perform fetch operation, what do you require? You require a record variable of invoice header, isn't it? True. So what I will do is I'll declare this rec underscore invoice as a table type, isn't it? Correct? Correct? So this row type variable is nothing but row IMPL. In a Java, this particular row type, sorry, this row type in PL SQL is nothing but row IMPL in Java. Okay. So now what are we doing is we created a new row. Now nothing but I have created a Java row, and this Java row we have to insert into the Vivo. So when a row is available in the Vivo, this particular row will be shown in the page. So while showing the row in the page, what I am doing is I'm setting the value for it. So how do I set it? So we have a method called set invoice header ID. So set followed by your column name. Set followed by your column name. Now let us say I will set one more column name. Set status. So there is a column name called status in the table. So I'll just say draft.
Got it. Got it. These are basically the columns, whatever it is,
Right.
column name of the Java
Yes.
with the set.
That's it. Yes. Okay. Now we'll go to the CVO. So we'll write the delete functionality sometime later, but let's do the insertion as well as save and update. Okay. Now we also need to invoke the initialization method. So for the process request, you have to initialize it. So because if some data is already there in the page, we would like to show it by default. Okay. So that for that purpose, we just need to write the initialize method here. Yeah. Let's run the page and see how it goes. Okay. Now can you see see the difference? It says no results found. It says that no results found. So what does it mean? No result found means the VIVO is executed, but there is no data in the database. Okay. Now the first thing what I will do is I'll just click on insert row. I'll click on insert row. Can you see? The row is initialized with the invoice header ID is 1 and the status as draft. So how it is happening? It's happening because we have already set the value while inserting the row. So whatever the data which is available in the Vivo, it will get refreshed automatically. Now this particular data is available in the Vivo, not at the database level. If you observe the database, let us say, go to the database now, and if you see this particular table, there is no data at all as of now, because we have not yet performed commit. What are the data which you are seeing in the page is still at the middle tier level, nothing but at Java level, I can say. It's still available at the Java level itself, not the database level. So when it will reach the database level, when you perform commit, nothing but when you click on save, just click on save. Now it says data saved successfully and check the data in the database now. And it has to have a record now. It has to have a record. Can you see? And one more thing, if you observe, all the hook columns are getting updated automatically. It does not need to write any special logic for it. The hook columns will be updated automatically. It's a by default functionality. And I have only one mandatory parameter called invoice header ID. So I just entered that. That's it. And remaining parameters, the hook columns are getting updated automatically. And let's try for one more record. Let us say I'll click on insert row now and just see whether the header ID sequence will be generated or not. Can you see? Now the invoice header ID sequence is 2 now. Let us try one more. It will be 3 now. Right? Okay. Now click on save and see whether it will insert these particular 2 and 3 or not. Go to the database and see the remaining 2 records. Yes, 2 and 3. And now I'll try to perform update. I'll try to perform update. Let us say invoice number. I'll say invoice 3 and amount is and I will say something here. Just invoice. I'll update this, but now I'll just again click on save. See, now we have not written any special logic for the update. Just simply commit purpose. Just simply commit. That's it. And now check whether this particular record got updated or not. Can you see the invoice header 3 got updated? But here, without writing any insert, update, or any delete functionality, or a simple I can say insert and update as well as commit functionality, how the data is reaching the database? What is the process involved in this one? What is the technology here? The logic, the total overall logic is this particular onion layer. If you observe, what will happen is the data flows from the page, then CWORD, then to the AM, then VIVO, and then it will reach the entity. So what will happen is whatever the data which is available in the VIVO level, all the data, it can be like old data, or it can be new record, or I can say in this way, it can be old record, or a new record, or an updated record. So what will happen is this all data will be this all data which is available in the Vivo will be validated with the entity. So this entity object, what it will do is it will validate, okay, what data is available, in the Vivo, and what data is available in the database. And one more thing, what it will do is it will try to validate, okay, whether the user has done any insertions or whether the user has done any updations. Nothing but it will try to find out, it will try to validate old records, new records, and updated records. And based on that, this entity object will generate the appropriate statement like insert DML, update DML, as well as delete DML, all these particular things. And after that, the commit operation will perform. So nothing but generally when you call the commit, in the AMIMPL, explicitly this particular one, sorry, when you perform commit operation, before performing the database commit, this entity will be called, and after that the commit will be done. And after that the database commit will be done. So what I'm trying to tell you is all the DML statements are generated by this particular entity object. So that is the implicit functionality which is done by the entity object. So the entity object is responsible for generating all the DML statements, and it will perform the database commit operations. So commit is done by the AM, but implicitly this entity will be called during commit operation. Okay, clear? And now what we do is, if you observe this particular first and last column, the invoice header ID as well as status, so this can be read only, right? Because this should not be updatable first of all. This should not be modified by the user. So what we do is, so go to this particular page and the first column, set it as message style text. And the same way this status column will also have message style text. And now the next functionality which I would like to perform is deletion operation. How do you delete the data? So when you say delete, it can be a single, it can be like what you say, a single row deletion or multi-row deletion, right? A single selection or multi-selection. So now what we require is, so we can provide the user an option called a radio button or a checkbox, either way. So for that one, what we do is go to the Vivo. We require one temporary attribute. So on the attributes, just click on new. On the attributes, click on new, and now just name the particular column as select flag and updatable always, and OK. And if you observe, it says it's a transient one. Why it is called transient one? Because this particular select flag is not part of your select query. So that is why it is called as transient. Just click on apply and OK. And now what we do is, so in the page, go to the page. On the table region, perform a right click. And click on new. Either you can go with multi-selection or single selection. I'll prefer multi-selection now. And here in the multi-selection, just click on view instance and select the Vivo. And here in the view attribute, select the column select flag. That's it. Now it will provide a checkbox on each and every row. But we have to write the logic for the deletion. So let's write the logic for the deletion. Delete, selected. Okay. Now to delete a particular row, what we require is we have to know whether the user has selected a particular row or not. So let us write all this particular logic now. So always we require the Vivo instance, and we require the row instance also. And now to get the selected rows, what we have is we have functionality called Vivo dot get filtered rows. And here this particular row class is available in two APIs. Can you see? It's available in three total overall. Com dot sun dot row set internal com dot some other one. Sorry, Oracle has definitely something. So we have to select Oracle.jbo here. Oracle.jbo is a package we have to use it for the purpose of row class. Okay. Now in this one, just mention what is the attribute on which you want to get the selected rows. So what exactly this will do is it will try to get all the particular rows which are having the select flag value as y. So whenever user selects a particular row, automatically the column value for that particular record will be y. So we want to get only those particular rows, and also we want to check the length. Now, if row's length is greater than is 0, then only we want to delete it. Else we want to raise an exception, because sometimes user may click on delete without selecting rows also. So we have to consider those particular restrictions also. So if you read the loop now, int I is equal to 0, I less than rows length. So here Java starts with 0, the index starts with 0. Now row is equal to rows of I. So we'll get the selected row here, and what we have to do is we have to simply delete it. Row dot remove. That's it. So this will delete the row from the Vivo level, not from the database level. Okay. Okay. Now here. Okay. Before that, we have to perform commit. Before that, we have to perform commit. So deletion is done. Like here, if row's length is greater than 0, and perform the loop and get the row and remove it from the Vivo. And then when you perform commit, it will call evo, and then it will call the commit. This is what it will happen. And after that, display the message. And now this particular method, we call it from the 0. So this is the button name. Delete is your button name. Okay. Okay, that's it. If you want to perform single row stuff, the only difference you'll observe is it does not record for loop. If you want to delete only single row, what we can do is just does not require any loop here. Instead of rows of I, just mention rows of 0. Okay. Now let's run the page and see how it works. Now the first difference if you observe is this particular column. The first column, the invoice header ID and status, which are in a read-only mode. And now we have provided this particular checkbox on each and every row. Simply select any of the row. Let us select second row and click on delete. Right now it got deleted from database, and check it whether it is available in database or not. So it got deleted from the database also. Now let us say I'll click on insert row now. Now the fourth row got inserted. Again I click on insert. So now the fifth invoice header 50 is created. And this invoice header ID 5 and 4 are available only at the Vivo level, not at the database level. Now if you perform, let us say I'll try to remove it. Just I'll click on delete. Let us say I click on delete. So now what will happen is it will delete this particular fourth row. This will delete this particular fourth row. Okay. And check what is available in database now. Got it? Okay. So this is how we can perform the DML operations. This is how we can perform the DML operations on the particular table using the entity object. Now one more thing which I'd like to show you, like we can also export this particular content. We can also export this particular content into Excel sheet. That's a default function. I think we discussed, right? Exporting a data to a particular Excel sheet. We have discussed that.
Table actions, an export button.
Yeah, right, right.
I remember.
Yeah, so that we discussed. Okay. So overall, the entity object concept is this only. Like what to say, insert, update, as well as delete, and the selection. So after this, the next particular thing what we try to discuss is like we'd like to work on a kind of a mini project. So now, as of now, independently we are working on different concepts, and now the next particular concept what we would like to work on is it's kind of a mini project, which involves all the functionalities what all we have done and some more new functionalities. So this particular one, it will have a search field, and this will have a DML page. Okay. So in the search page, what we do is, so user will search data. User will have a search, like user will search the data, and based on that, it will display a set of records, and it will provide same option like update it will provide, deletion it will provide, as well as create it will provide. So whenever user clicks on update or delete or create, whenever user clicks on update as well as create, it will go to the DML page, and we also provide one more option for view. Okay, and each particular record will have a status. Each particular record will have a status. So now let us say if the status is draft, the view as well as update is allowed. The status is submitted. The status is submitted. What we do is it will allow only view option, not the update option. So now what we do is we'll try to show our DML page. We'll try to show this particular single page in the view mode, as well as update mode, as well as deletion mode. Sorry, I need to say create mode. But if a single page, we'll try to show in a different view, in the view mode, nothing but read-only mode, update mode, as well as creation mode. So these are mini projects. So it involves larger number of functionalities. It's only 2 pages, but we'll try to cover up major functionalities which generally come across. Like you will use LOVs, you'll use pop lists, you'll use fire actions, and you'll use page forward. You'll see how you pass the data from one page to another page. These are all things we'll try to see. Okay, and we'll start this one from tomorrow. Okay, Ram.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll stop here today. So tomorrow we'll try to work on these particular functionalities.